it's more poetic than it is, impactful. Like, it isn't actually speaking to who you want it to speak to. And it sounds great and it sounds pretty. And if we were writing poetry or something like that, that someone was looking for entertainment, then, thumbs up. But what it isn't doing is telling people who you want to work with and what you can do for them and how you can change them. So, when I land on your side and I look at the, walk life's prairies together, it's beautiful and it's poetic, but it's not going to make me click that button to schedule an appointment.
Success is a lie if you're failing inside. You can't grow a business you hate. Welcome to the Business Reality Check.
Welcome to the Business Reality Check podcast. I'm Jonna.
And I'm Lori, and together we founded Thrive Collective because we are deeply passionate about the solopreneur and the small business owner. We're tired of seeing people build a business based on someone else's lifestyle or proven formula that just doesn't fit who they actually are.
Absolutely. And we believe that your business should be a reflection of your journey and your values. We're here because we care about the person behind the professional, and we want to help you realign your work with the life that you actually want to lead. If you're feeling like you're stuck or you're living a business that was built for someone else, you're not alone. This podcast is about having the heart-centered conversations you need to get back to what matters. We're going to look at what's truly holding you back and challenge the shoulds that keep you small. We do this with kindness and radical clarity because you deserve a business that works for you, not against you.
And if you want to see our faces and feel like you're right here in the room with us, head over to youtube.com/@BizRealityCheckPod to watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts. Check the podcast notes for all the links and resources from today's episode. And if you're ready for your own reality check, we've also included a link to apply so that you can be a guest. We would love to hear your story. All right, let's get started.
All right. So today's guest made a decision that a lot of people think about, but very few actually do. He walked away from the security of a steady agency paycheck and built something entirely his own. Adam is a licensed clinical social worker based here in Oklahoma. And after 4 years in community mental health, he decided he was done navigating the bureaucracy that just kept getting between him and the kind of care that he actually wanted to provide. So he launched Greenside Prairies, a private practice where he works with individuals on trauma, OCD, anxiety, and aging concerns. By almost every measure, Adam is doing it right. He loves his clients. He's energized by his work. He shows up on Monday morning excited, which is pretty rare. But here's the thing. Loving what you do doesn't automatically fill your calendar. And Adam is smart enough to know that the clinical piece and the business piece are two very different skill sets. He's here today to fill that gap between where he is and where he wants to be. Comes down to one word: visibility. Welcome, Adam. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you guys so much. I am really excited for this conversation. I told Lori during our pre-check call, I think something like this is really cool because there's a lot, I love being a clinician. I have a really good time being a clinician, and that's great. And being an entrepreneur is very new to my social worky heart. So I'm very much looking forward to this conversation.
I am so glad to hear you say that. I feel like you're reading my mind already because, Adam, when we start, it's like you came here saying that you love your work and your clients, and that's a great place to begin the conversation. You are excited, which is really cool, not something we hear from everyone. So we kind of want to hear from you. What do you want to actually walk away from this conversation, knowing, learning, having after today?
That's a really good question. I don't know that I come with expectations on that. I am aware that I'll stay on the growth curve and a learning curve with Greenside Prairies for as long as I can. I think that's part of owning the business, which that's honestly so funny to say, like, I own a business. But I think one of my bigger things that I'm getting accustomed to is social media and digital presence. The idea that I don't only have to convince people searching Google to look at my website, but I have to convince ChatGPT to show my website. I'm like, cool, this is neat. This is new in so many ways.
It's a different world than it was, 10, even 5 years ago. So much of the landscape has changed. And like going back to what you said, it is as business owners, we know we are constantly growing and pivoting and changing. And anyone who doesn't believe that probably will not be successful for very long. And so we love to hear that. We love that you're eager to learn and grow. And we have a lot of marketing questions and ideas that we have later on in the pipeline. So I just want to dive in because we like to get a sense of who you are, and we like to share that with our listeners as well. So we want to know kind of like your why. Why did you go into this industry? What, compels you to help others, and just, what's really in your heart?
Absolutely. It's a well-practiced speech of mine at this point. Being in community and mental health for 4 years, especially, a lot of people are coming through the door, not super jazzed about being in services, but knowing they are kind of out of options. Some people were very excited, but either way, they, sit across the desk from me and they're like, why should I trust you? I'm like, it's a really important question. And it's because I've been on the other side of in the other chair, so to speak. When I was, 7 or 8, I don't remember how old, I went to biofeedback or neurofeedback, depends on who you are. You call it one thing or the other. But I went to therapy for some things I'd had going on. And I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. I'll stand by that every moment of my life. So having that experience was really important to me, and I enjoyed it a lot. I also had a couple of really influential people in my life who, as I was getting close to high school graduation, I was like, I think I want to do this. I think I want to do that. And every single one of them looked at me and said, get your social work degrees, get your licensed clinical social worker license. You can do therapy, or you can do management. Because at that time, the master's program for social work was split. You could either go the clinical or go the administrative route. By the time I got into my master's program, they had all merged. So it was really cool, learning a lot about clinical work and about administrative side of things. It was really good. Just plain and simple, it was really good. So my why is that I went through a lot of hard things when I was 5 years old, and someone came alongside me and said, hey, I'm here to talk with you about this. And, neurofeedback specifically did what it was supposed to and helped reset my brain waves, which is a super cool experience. I kind of want to go back and do it as an adult to see what it's like, but I get to do that now. I get to be part of people's experiences and hear their stories. I'm nothing if not a lover of story. Like, to hear what people have been through and where they're hoping to be is just incredible to me. My why is that someone did it for me, so I get the honor of doing it for them.
I love that. Yeah, it's beautiful when what you do truly lines up with, where your passion is, and, especially when you've been there, because you can understand and you can give so much more of yourself in the way that they need, which is, which I'm sure your clients are seeing from you.
Yes, it's been really good. Being in private practice specifically is really cool because I could have more direct conversations to kind of check in that way. So for what it's worth, at Grand, it wasn't even the bureaucracy why I left. They actually did a pretty good job letting counselors do their thing. I was tired of driving an hour to work every day. Like, it was, that drive was helpful to decompress, but my kid's not going to be a kid forever. So was kind of just ready to be closer to home. But as I left, the further I got along, it absolutely was like, oh man, I really get to do what I want, so long as it appeases insurance.
No, that makes a lot of sense. As a mother myself, my daughter's 11, and that was a big reason why I stepped into entrepreneurship full time myself, because I didn't want to have to go to a job and leave her with Nana and Papa or a babysitter, while I was gone away, and lose those moments in that time. So, and I love, again, not having red tape and things like that, where I can make my own decisions and do what is right, legal, of course, but right for the people around me and for, the people we work with. So we love to hear that. And we did want to dive a little bit kind of into that, why you left and how you're feeling about, entrepreneurship as you're just getting into that. And, are you loving it? Are there things that are scary? Are there things that, are amazing?
My script here says it's the best choice I've ever made. I would do it time and time. No, leaving Grand was a very difficult decision. There was a lot, there's a lot of other factors that went into it that all are, different time, different place. But getting the opportunity to start private practice was really almost out of like just couldn't find a comparable work opportunity at the time. So I talked with people who have done this. I wish I had, people who've been doing this for 10 or 15 years gave me a lot of actionable advice that I use every single day. I wish I had talked to more people that have started up in the last like 2 years. Since then I've sat with other clinicians who have opened a private practice in the last 1 or 2 years, and it has also been very insightful and also given me steps I use every day. So getting to start Greenside Prairies really initially actually came because I was going to pick up a couple of like side work, like weekend appointments in Oklahoma City. That didn't come to fruition, but I made an LLC. I had business insurance. I had my own malpractice insurance at that point. So I was like, well, I have some things in place. Let's see what I can do with that.
I love this story. And I feel like for people who are listening, you have a lot of different components to the why for you. And I love that you did a really good job including all of those things. So I just want to highlight, like, for people listening in, they can start to find themselves in like maybe why they started, because a lot of us are dealing in the last couple of years, to Jonna's point, things have changed. The way that Facebook works, messaging, groups, everything is starting to shift. And I'm so glad you also mentioned that, Adam, like talking to people who opened in the last 1 or 2 years would have a very different perspective than the veteran 10, 15 plus business owners who could build something in grassroots and referrals and certain things that just don't work quite the same nuanced way now. So, if you are like Adam, where you're very aligned, but something just isn't working in the marketing piece of things, or it's kind of like overwhelming. It's like its own monster and beast to like figure this thing out. I just want you to feel like you can listen with him. He's doing the heavy lifting. You're doing all the vulnerable stuff today. So huge props to you. But like, also know that it's okay if you feel this way. And we're going to start breaking it down. So jump in, like listen like you're him, listen like you're Adam. And I want you, if you're listening, to take this on fully, because we're about to really break down your who. Like, we got questions for you. He doesn't know. Like, we spent a whole hour building this for him. We have so many questions. And we've worked with like psychologists, psychotherapists, like we've worked in this industry before with people in marketing. And I would say, Jonna, we've noticed that like identifying the who is different, right? Because there's a lot more like, is it nuance? Is it like a sense of carefulness, right?
Yeah. Well,
oh, sorry. Do you mind
no,
if
I was gonna bounce it to you, Adam. I was gonna say Adam's got something to say.
Nuance is the exact right word. It's not specificity. It's because yes, a niche is important. As a therapist, I need to whittle down like, hey, I'm really good at working with this. If this is your problem, I really want to talk to you about it and see if we're a good fit. I will work with just about anybody. I am happy to. I spent 4 years in community mental health. I did not get a choice on what clients I was assigned. And honestly, I'm grateful for it. But yes, like you said in my intro, PTSD, OCD, anxiety, aging, life transitions, like those are what I have to publicly identify and say like, hey, I am well versed in these things. When you see my face, I want you to see these things.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you said whittle down, because I do think it's important. It's not as important about whittling down from a perspective like of getting it right versus getting it wrong. We don't live in a right wrong world when we coach or mentor people, but it's like the person reading your site, is it meeting them where they are now so that they feel like called? Okay, this is me. I get it. He's speaking to me. And I want to lay that framework, especially in this conversation, and have a little bit more care because of the work that you do. And I want you to know that we're coming from that place, not like, oh, Adam, you set up this website and we don't like it, or you didn't say that. It's not like that. It's like, we're wondering if you're speaking to the person who's struggling, needing you right now. So that's where I think I'd like to start with Jonna. If she's my brand strategist queen, everybody, if you don't know her. So I really need to check in with her and make sure I'm not missing anything.
No, I do. I did want to highlight something and this is it's just kind of an overarching question to you, Adam, before we dive in. And I think it will give some good context to both us and the listeners. But I feel like in general, obviously the marketing landscape has changed, but I also feel like counseling and therapy in general has changed over the year because, I'm millennial and, it was still pretty taboo when I was younger. You know what I mean? Like, therapy was, not necessarily something that everybody was doing, and it wasn't something that people were doing proactively. It was more of like a response thing. And now I feel like we're in such a different landscape where people are progressive about their mental health. They're progressive about things, and more people are accepting of, having therapy, having counseling, and, getting help and things like that they need to transition and grow. And so I feel like it's so much different because we have a flux of people, right? It's not just the same kind of people. We have everybody now. Am I wrong? Am I correct, Adam?
Super correct. It's not just that we have a huge flux of people who are willing to seek out and engage in services. We have a huge flux of people who are providing it. I haven't checked in the last couple of weeks, but if you put in my zip code in psychology today, pretty sure there's over 100 results that show up. I am so grateful for that. Yes, as someone who, when I started my bachelor's degree, like I very distinctly remember watching the shift happen while I was getting my bachelor's, that more people were actually talking about their own well-being and in ways that were productive, not in ways that were like, today sucked. All right. Anyways, it was like, today sucked. And it was because this, and this is what I want to do about it. I was like, this is really cool. Like these are really helpful conversations. And yes, it wasn't just a clinic on the edge of town that you drove out to and you wondered the whole time if someone saw your car parked there because it's small town Oklahoma and we live in a fishbowl. It was, I can't have lunch that day. I'm going to therapy. Okay, great. It was just much more commonplace. And even as someone providing services, it's become much more commonplace that if I give someone an attendance sheet, it's not a doctor's note. I don't have enough school for that. I don't want enough school for that. But it's like, hey, people's bosses are just much more receptive of like, oh, so-and-so was at counseling for an hour today. Okay, cool. Yeah. Anyways, and that's just what it is now. It is absolutely a changed landscape, and I'm so grateful for it. It's the version of not just mental health access as a whole, but really the version of like Oklahoma that I've been hoping to see for a long time. It's fantastic. I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, I think it's been such a beautiful shift. And I just wanted to keep that in mind as we keep going, because I do feel like because of that, it is causing us to speak to more, to specifically. It's like we have to talk about what we're doing because it's getting so widespread, which is a wonderful thing. It's not a problem. It's just a way that we have to shift the way we speak and talk to things. So as we dive into your who and as we narrow in and give this advice, we want to keep that kind of in the forefront of our mind.
Absolutely.
So I want to start out with just kind of a general question before we look at your site and who you're talking to is like, who do you want to serve? What fulfills you? Like when you give back to them, like what is the most satisfying thing that you can do and who you can work with?
The older population, college students, and anyone who is stuck reliving a hard moment over and over and over. And that's part of why I get interested in trauma and in OCD, because post-traumatic stress is reliving things, it's avoiding things that would cause you to relive things, which then leads to avoiding life in general at an extreme. And at the same time, obsessive compulsive disorder is I'm stuck living a thing I don't want to do over and over because my brain has convinced me that'll help me. So that I would say, yeah, again, the older population. When I was finishing my bachelor's degree, I did a internship in the geriatric wing of a psych hospital, and my supervisor Scooter put it best: you meet incredible people at just a really unfortunate time in their lives. And anyone I work with is an incredible person at a hard to unfortunate time in their life. But that population especially is a population that's much more open to mental health services. Then college students, they're just kids trying to figure out what it means to be an adult. It's a big change. It's a hard change. I remember it well. It's just great to talk with them, and they're like, it's hard. I'm like, it is hard. Congratulations.
is.
And then trauma and OCD, like I said, people are stuck in the same spot over and over, and they want to move past it or move through it and grow from it. And I think there's so much power in just it's such a cool experience to get to be part of, quite frankly.
This episode is brought to you by Social Work Exam Prep. For social workers, the exam is a powerful step toward your mission of advocacy, inclusion, and real-world impact. It is the bridge to the career you were meant for. At Social Work Exam Prep, they prepare you to approach the exam exactly the way the test makers intended. Led by Wendy Elias, a clinical social worker with over 25 years of experience, who designed the curriculum to elevate your clinical judgment, critical thinking, and ethical awareness. With an 88% first-time pass rate, their 5-module course masters the DSM-5 and therapeutic modalities while integrating essential self-regulation skills to keep you grounded and focused under pressure. You can study at your own pace with a curriculum designed by a practicing, clinically licensed social worker who's taught more than 500 people for over 15 years. Invest in your expertise and move through your final stretch of prep with absolute clarity. Visit socialworkexamprep.net today and successfully pass your social work exam.
Yeah. No, I think, we hear some similarities, of course, between, who you're working with and kind of maybe those pain points are aligning, even though they're in different places of their life, but those pain points are very similar across, I think, what you're saying. The clients that you have now, do you feel like they represent who you want to work with?
I would say so. Absolutely. It took time to find them, and is still taking time to find them. But I would say so. They're people that are going through things that I have a lot of experience working with. They're people who show up and are ready for conversation, or have days where they're not as ready for conversation, but we still get to sit and talk regardless.
Good. And how are they typically finding you, the people that you're working with right now?
It's a little bit of a split. Psychology Today, though nowhere near as big of a referral source as it used to be. I've gotten probably half the people I work with from Psychology Today, like 2 to 3 people a month, if that. That, just as a quick reference for the big change in how people find mental health in the last 5 years, people used to get like 40 inquiries a month from Psychology Today, which is crazy. Facebook groups have been a big part of it. There's a couple of Oklahoma mental health like provider groups, or there's like just helper groups, like general description of helping profession groups. Probably 5 or so clients from people saying, hey, I'm in search of a therapist that can do this, this, and that. Like, hey, here's my phone number, here's my website, feel free to pass it on. 1 or 2 word of mouth from like other counselors I know. And I think I have one client that like someone I have worked with was like, hey, here's the name of my therapist.
Great. I mean, that's great. It sounds like a lot of them, like a lot of online, and then a couple referrals as well. And how are they booking with you? Are they, are they landing on the website and calling you? Are they sending you a text message? Are they filling out an inquiry form? How are they starting that initial conversation with you?
Yeah, on my website, which currently is a site that's hosted through the electronic health record I use, there is a link to book a 15-minute consultation call, which can be in person, video, or phone call. That's the most common one. If people are calling me from Psychology Today, because they can either follow the link and do it themselves, or they can call me while we're on the phone. I'm either like, hey, I'm not at my laptop, I will call you back in the next 20 minutes. Or if I am at my computer, I'm like, oh, let me pull up my calendar. When do you have time? If anyone does book it through the website, I do reach out to them via phone call. I'm like, hey, I saw this, thank you. Do you want to do video or phone or in person? Because if they want to meet in person, I stretch it to 30 minutes rather than 15. You're coming to my office, let's spend some time together.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I mean, and I think too, people who are coming to you have, of course, trauma and things that they're dealing with. So I love that you're willing to, meet them kind of where they are, whether, a phone call feels safer or face-to-face or a video call, which I think is very open. And it gives people, right away, the feeling of working with you is like, hey, I'm going to meet you right off the bat. So I feel like, Lori, that gives, kind of a nice indication of the fact that you're willing to meet them.
I love that. I'm glad you said that. We weren't totally sure. We did click through, by the way, we clicked through everything. I could see that, you could book these different things, but we read over your entire site and like most of your social posts on Insta and Facebook. So while we're asking, we have a sense of what's been going on in the background in the meantime. And thank you for answering, because we kind of thought you were gearing a little bit more toward just the younger population. When you say aging, that doesn't mean a lot to everybody. So I think just that's like one good point. When you say aging, I think there's a like senior, geriatric, there is the right word, whatever right word is for you. We're going to get to that more in the what, but just like in identifying the who, I think that's helpful. And I also think that like because I'm thinking about it in terms of like the way you talk about yourself, whether it's like elevator pitch on your site, on your socials, I'd love to see you talk more about, we call it like the language of transformation, like what it's like to work with you on the other side, or like those aha moments. If you can capture that I think is more compelling if they were to land on your site versus like what they, not like anything's wrong. Remember, I'm not coming from right and wrong, but if they were to read it and then take an action, I think it's more compelling to compel them with, even though like what you're saying today is more encapsulating for me than what I read on your site, because I can't always tell who you're talking to. So I think that's the first flag we want to raise for you, is like, it might be obvious to you, but in the way it's broken down, and maybe they only give you a limited ability in your builder. Maybe that's one thing.
Yes.
We can just name for you. And of course you're getting the whole transcription of this entire thing. So if you wanted a custom site that was the cheapest we've ever found in the whole world, we would recommend Google Sites. You can build a Google site. Google Workspace costs like $7 a month. Within Google Workspace, you get a professional domain email and a website builder. And if you weren't sold, our website is a Google site.
Yeah, y'all's website looks good. Absolutely. I will say that's part of the trick about Psychology Today, is it's like, here, tell us about your ideal client. You have 300 characters. Like, oh, what do you mean?
Yeah, it can be difficult, and it's like, and so looking at your website, I'm just going to tell you a little story about myself. Is like, I'm a very creative, I'm a very like artsy person, and years and years and years ago, I had my own marketing agency before I had partnered up with Lori, and it was, I named it Wimpole Media. It was after The Street and My Fair Lady, which was my favorite movie. It wasn't a reference to anything that anybody would understand, and I redid my brand at one point. I redid my website, and I sent it to my mentor, and she was like, it's beautifully written, but it's more poetic than it is, impactful. Like, it isn't actually speaking to who you want it to speak to. And it sounds great and it sounds pretty. And if we were writing poetry or something like that, that someone was looking for entertainment, then, thumbs up. But what it isn't doing is telling people who you want to work with and what you can do for them and how you can change them. So, when I land on your site and I look at the, walk life's prairies together, it's beautiful and it's poetic, but it's not going to make me click that button to schedule an appointment. I want to see something that immediately makes me be like, holy crap, I need to book with Adam because I need this. I need to have this transformation. I need someone to be there with me as I'm walking through, this bridge in my life right now, and using more language that is going to relate to their pain points, because people are on your site because they need something and they, and they want something from you, and you immediately need to speak to that person. And so trying to use those limited amount of characters that you have to really get inside their head, and so that they understand that you can help them.
I dig that. Absolutely. I will say to your point, Lori, about geriatric population, senior population, it's the one thing that I really scratched my head on, like, how do I market to them? How do I legit? I had this idea. I was like, I could make a reel where I just read off like, hi, my name's Adam and I work with geriatric clients. To get your attention, I have a list. Lawrence Welk, reel to reel. Like, there's just
We have some marketing ideas as we move forward. We have some, and that's something we wanted to talk. That's why we're kind of defining your why, because when we know who you want to work with, we can give you specific ideas that will reach out to those audience, because those people spend time places, right? They're looking for things in certain places. They don't use resources like a millennial or a college student is going to use resources. And so altering how you do things, and even like your what and how you deliver things and the services you offer to who you really want to work with. Because, when you said, you serve individuals 16 and up, but like, when we hear from you, you're like college, and calling out those audience, not being so generic, because you're coming from a past where you took anybody who was given to you, and that's totally fine, but you're in a different world now. And Lori has a really great example of a bullseye system, because when we have a bullseye, it's not just like, oh, I only work with this people, it's like, no, these are my inner circle. It doesn't mean I'm not going to work with this circle or this circle or this circle, but I'm going to talk to the people that land right in the bullseye of that target.
I think it.
And I also think, like, whether you keep the site that you have and find a way to integrate some more language there, or you try something like a Google site, we don't care. Like, we're not attached to what you do specifically. But I think that there's ways like incorporating a blog or something that will speak to, so you say college age students, right? But there's also a lot of young people in the foster care system. There's young people aging out of that, or aging out of living at home, or are those your niche? And if not, that's fine. But whoever the who is, like, college age is still broad. Let's talk more to them. Do you want to create a space that's safe for all genders? Is that an important thing? And if so, that's the language that's got to be on the forefront. And if not, it's just a matter of keeping on, like, lifting the lid. Is like, okay, and who? And like, lift it again. Like, what are they dealing with? Is it like they had trauma in their younger years, or they had trauma at college? Like, was there things that happened in college that they need to overcome to get in the workplace? Is it preparing for the workplace? Like, that's a whole thing that's so different now, post-COVID era. So I don't know if you want to name some of those now. If they're on top of your mind, call it out for us. And if not, that's where we want you to swirl with some of the who.
Yeah, I would say it's anyone who is in that age bracket for sure, but I like the specifiers. Like, sure, college age tends to exclude someone who got their GED and went to trade school, or still finished and graduated their diploma but went to tech school. Which, listen, everyone under the sound of my voice, if you're not sure you want to go to college, don't do it. Like, if you are a year into college, don't think it's for you, leave. Just, I'm begging, I'm pleading, go to tech school, get a certification, and work a job that you will still enjoy so much without having spent 4 years not sure why you're spending those 4 years on a project.
For real.
So right there is a reel. That right there would be a great example of
oh my gosh, it is.
Mm-hmm. It happens like this when you're just live flowing. These powerful things come up, and that's why it's recorded and transcribed, so you'll literally have your script to go back and recreate that.
I want you to know how many times I've like reached to start typing in a Word document. I'm like, oh, it'll be there.
We got you.
Yeah, we tell everyone, if you don't know, if on this podcast we transcribe the entire thing. Thanks, Gemini, it's doing it for us, because we want you to be like live and with us, and like, people don't even remember what they say because you are so alive in this moment. So this is where a lot of that, like, kind of brainstorming happens, is when you're in a mentorship or coaching conversation. It's extremely powerful, as you know, because you deliver something pretty similar. So I like that you're already catching that. Like, if you say college age, you're saying college, you probably are gonna not grab all these other people. So it doesn't really matter if they're college age per se, but are they like transitioning from school to work, or dealing with anxiety there, or uncertainties, or I think you're already starting to see that you could name that more clearly, right?
Yeah, I dig that a lot. This is actually like all right, this has been really helpful. I'll see y'all later. No.
Bye. No. And it's just, as we keep going too, you're gonna You're going to take away more things as we keep going. But like I was that kid who went to college and I really didn't want to go to college, but I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And now I have, 20,000 whatever in debt, that I have to pay off for something that I never got a degree in. And I didn't even declare a major. So like I was delusional, so I knew from the get-go I didn't want to be there. But
it's like, of course I have 2 degrees. That was my only option. But I made up my mind about that when I was 17, that I would get my bachelor's. Then the reason social work is also easy, not easier, but can be more beneficial. You graduate with your bachelor's in social work, you have 5 years to start your master's, and it is a 32-hour master's program. That's nothing. That's a year of your life, and you have it. There's my sales pitch for social work.
love it.
I do just also want to say that we have a client who is a social worker, a master level social worker of over 25 years, and you will be hearing from her in this episode when it is published. So funny you should say that, because we also are very, very, very big on like, if this is on your heart to become someone who is a social worker, to your point, there's now a myriad of ways you can embody the work. So we'll leave it there.
And I'll hit a quick pitch for my LPCs, my LMFTs, my LADCs. If that is what you want to do, please do that too. Absolutely. Those programs have started to include much more of the like administrative side, and just the medical behavioral health world as a whole has been much more like, congratulations, you finished a program. You are capable of doing what we need you to. Please come work for us.
Love that. A lot of love here in social work. So I feel pretty good that, John, I know we're still kind of swirling with the who, and I think that we can keep swirling as we kind of get into the what, because I feel like there's a lot to talk about. When we say the what, we mean what your marketing looks like and what is the service or product that you're delivering. So there's a whole bunch of different elements. And I think that the who will keep identifying themselves as the language continues. So
yes,
they all blend. They all blend together. So, so you are doing one-on-one individual therapy, right? You're doing it in person. You're offering telehealth appointments as well. Are you doing any kind of group settings, or is it only individual at this point?
Right now it's only individual. I would like to do group. I do not possess a space capable of hosting a group. Yes, individual counseling that is in my office or over a video call specifically, I'm all about it. It's exactly what I do.
I love that. And I think Lori's going to kill me because I always jump into the how before I'm supposed to, but I can't separate it, because if I don't do it now, I won't come back to it. But I want to keep that pinned, because I think maybe group therapy would be a really great way to incorporate that into your marketing and your lead flow as we get into the how. And so we can talk about that a little bit more as we move forward. But we're gonna pin it. I'm gonna let Lori speak to Google and Google My Business, because you mentioned people finding you on Google and finding you on ChatGPT. And go ahead, Lori.
I did find you. I found your listing. I see you have a business listing. It's always so fun to find people in other states, because I have to force it to come up for me. I'm in Delaware, if you don't know.
Right.
And I noticed that you're not posting content to Google My Business. And a lot of people don't realize you actually can post, like you're posting on Facebook.
Yeah, that's news to me. That's really cool.
Adam, they just don't care if you know. I don't know why, but they don't care who knows. We make it our business to know. So you can post and schedule content there. And the great thing is the words that come up in your posts can come up in search results.
Ooh.
They can. Doesn't mean they will, but they can, because they can be found on your actual business listing page.
I will say, big fan of scheduled content, because when I get that burst of I'm an entrepreneur today, I'm going to make stuff. I'm like, and the next month is done.
No, that's great. We schedule all of our clients a month in advance. So we are always a month ahead with our social media content. And I'm a kind of a creative burst person, but I have to have the consistency, because I won't, have energy on a Monday, and then I won't have energy again until Friday afternoon. So we have our consistency, and then I take that creative output and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I just had a great idea for a reel, and I'm going to make this special project, and I still get to shove all my creative juices into something, but then I know I have all this consistent stuff going. So we want to give you a little round of applause, little clap for scheduling content, because not a lot of people do, and that's when people fall into a trap where they don't have content going out and they're not marketing themselves.
I mean, as I'm sure I'm about to hear, I don't think it's the best content I could be putting out, but
we actually thought it was funny. So that's why we wanted to talk about your why, because I think certain types of content appeal to people more than other people. So, you know, what you're putting out, and Adam's funny. His content's funny. He makes some very nuanced references to things. And I think certain audiences, like maybe some of those college students, would appreciate them. I will say probably the older generation, you know what I mean? Like they're not resonating. They're not connecting with some of the stuff. But as we keep going, we'll give you some tips and some advice. We have lots of ideas. Are you doing any in-person networking?
I am not, and I figured that was going to come up because I'm not going to couch it. I'm not going to excuse it. I am not doing in-person networking at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I also just wanted to say really quick, also with your Google, I don't want to forget, you need to get reviews there. You need to get reviews. And
that's a funny spot.
I know. It's a little different in your industry. You can still get honest reviews from peers. I know that you've got peers. I know that you have mentors, because you have to get hours and shadowing. You have friends and family who can honestly speak to your attitude, abilities, and skill set. So anything that's honest, in our opinion, is authentic and valid.
I dig that.
And it will all those things will help in search results. And if you're not in-person networking in Edmond, Oklahoma, you're missing a whole lot. John has taught me about Oklahoma.
There is a lot of local networking. I've been here for, I've been saying 10 years for like 15 years. So, somewhere around there. I just stopped counting at 10, but I've been here a while. And, there's a lot of great free networking groups, that aren't paid. Obviously, there's paid ones, but we always recommend people. There's so many free resources. You don't need to jump into a paid networking program. What you need to do is just carve out some time, because going and talking to people, getting referrals, these are money-making tasks, as Lori likes to say. And you are in a place of growth right now. You are actively filling your calendar. You are actively building your books, actively making connections. And we implore you, even if it's 2 times a month, that you carve out that time intentionally, put it in your calendar. We'll have some recommendations. I can give you some recommendations of some places to start for networking. But Oklahoma is filled. I feel like after, during COVID and then slightly after, the community here really shifted back to wanting to be in person again. And there's been a major shift away from online, and everybody has a networking group now. Everybody wants to get together with people. I'm sure you've kind of seen it as you've been online.
Yeah. I don't know how much, you know about the entirety of Oklahoma. I grew up in a town called Ada, which is, it's rural Oklahoma at its finest. It's big enough, but it sure is small enough. And yeah, I didn't sit around doing stuff on my, I would do my homework on my computer, slam it shut, and go find my friends wherever they were.
Mm-hmm.
You can do the same exact thing as a business adult. You should join the chamber. There's all kinds of chambers. You don't have to even go in person. There's a lot of virtual programming, and even being in the listings, even being able to contact people in the listings, and having a ribbon cutting ceremony is on the docket for you this year. You didn't know it, but now you know it, because you don't only have to be going. You could be, having strategic things. I understand you have a small space. Trust me, Jonna will already have 10 ideas for the events you can host in your how, and they don't have to be at your facility. She knows everyone and every cafe and she does a million events. So good news, you're going to be probably hosting events pretty soon, and it doesn't have to be at your little spot, which is fine. And also, like, you kind of touched a little bit, I feel like, on like referral network kind of. Is that something that you're actively keeping your eye on and building, is like finding those strategic partners? Because John has got at least 10 more ideas for him to put on the list.
I have a few things. I work a lot in the nonprofit sector here. So I work with a lot of different nonprofits in the area. And
do you ever work with Circle of Care?
I haven't worked with Circle of Care, but I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. They're who I worked for before, while I was getting my master's. So if you did, I was just gonna start name dropping.
Oh, give them a shout out anyway, but I love it. No, there's a lot of great places. Like, you talked about transitions. I don't know if you're familiar with Pivot. Are you?
I'm familiar with the program, but I'm not contacted or had interactions with anyone from Pivot.
Yeah. So I feel like getting your name out there, doing some, even some like group work, some free, like little classes and workshops that you could put together with these nonprofits. And as we go into it, going to senior centers and having maybe like a little group class that they can host there at their facility, because they do have spaces for that and you're bringing value to them. Same thing with public libraries. It is like $10 an hour to rent out a conference room at a public library, which has a very large population of college students and senior citizens, right? Those are the kind of people who go there. They have resources. They do activities to bring those people to them. Those are free programs. The library loves them. You work with the library, the metropolitan system, they will help promote them. They will put it out there on their networks.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. My wife and I are good friends with someone in the marketing department at the Metro system. So it would be very easy for me to get connected there. And so I'm going to say this so it's in the transcript. That idea about the nonprofits, I'm teaching a workshop at a conference in June called Practice What You Psychoeducate, which is about self-care and coping for the helping profession. I bet it would be pretty easy to reach out to nonprofits and ask if they would like me to come by and talk to their people about self-care and coping.
Absolutely.
I think we were going to ask you about that, right, Donna? We saw the event. You shared it on Facebook. And what we couldn't tell, though, is we couldn't figure out who exactly it was for, because we don't have your nuance, right? So while I'm sure it's great and it's something, continue education, peer-to-peer type thing, we do want to also see you educating the target audiences. So I think applying what you're doing there to what we're saying would make us feel happier knowing that you're reaching people who need you too.
Yeah, I dig that. Yeah, this particular presentation is very much intended for those who are working in the helping profession, as opposed to like the way I teach self-care and coping to my clients is very separate from how I present this particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of figured we could sort of tell. And I think that's where we're like, when you think of your who, and not to say that there's no place for education, of course, in your space, there's always ongoing education and hours and things. I just think it's really important that you remember the layman's terms and approach, so people know, like, this is for my social work peers. Yeah. When they see it, they're not like, oh, what is this? Because we were both kind of like, girl, what do you think it is? Or what do you think it is? I'm not really sure.
So just to throw an idea, like if I had said, hey, fellow helpers at the start of the post.
Yes, I think if other people who are social workers or something in the similar fields know that term helper, then yes, if the nuance is there, roll with it. Anyone else who doesn't know it will immediately disqualify themselves from that post. But the problem with posting it on your Facebook page is you might miss the who is interested on Facebook. Like if your peers are not necessarily going to find this on your page, it might make more sense to post those in the dedicated groups for peers. Sure. And then keep your page posts for, I would say, Jonah, since now we know he has a couple of different who's, your millennials who are dealing with trauma, anxiety, life changes. It makes sense on Facebook. I think you probably are pretty present to that. And if you reverse engineer your who on TikTok, and we saw your Instagram reels, that's where you can reach your younger people, your Gen Z, college, tech classes kind of people.
Yeah.
The humor is good. Taking the humor angle is good. You just got to remember we say like there's bridges. There's like a dating kind of a bridge and then the marriage bridge. Remember to invite them to date you, which would be like, send me a message if you're struggling. Like, let's just start a conversation. Or like a marriage, like book a call. Like, I've got you. However the safe tone you want it to come through. I would just say like, whether it's caption or other reels that you include that are not humorous. People always ask us, well, like, what do I say? If you are embodying the person you serve, you will know what to say because you said it here already and you're like, whoa, like, cool. I wish I would have typed that in the document like 10 days ago and I was like trying to write it down. So that's why we start with the who, so that your marketing, the what, speaks to your who.
Yeah,
So
I
I
like
hope
that.
that's resonating. Okay.
Do I have to make a TikTok account? I don't. I just don't want to.
No, here's your permission slip. I always keep paper. Here's your permission slip. You do not need to. Thank you. Just stick with what you have. I just like off the top of my head, that's where some young people would be, is like TikTok and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Don't add to the plate. And if you're listening and people are telling you to post on 100 different places, we hear it all the time, right, Donna? Like, please don't do that. You're probably just going to mess it up, hate it, forget about it, lose your password.
Mhm.
So for you, Instagram, keep doing the reels. And for your Facebook, we also, John and I were talking about it, when you do end up posting to Google Business, cross post your Facebook posts to your Google Business listing, like
Yeah.
page posts.
Yep.
I don't think you need to tweak them very much, because I think you're going to kind of get similar people looking there. And then, John, I love what you were saying about like the in-person, like the senior community, geriatric senior community.
Mhm.
You're going to reach them in human contact form. You're not really going to find them on the phone. They're not texting you, and they're not on social media. So I wouldn't worry about almost any of that being anywhere on social. I think that's where you got to be, like in groups, referral network, maybe sending letters. That's kind of a thing too, is when you build a referral network as like a practitioner, right? You can send letters to other types of senior centers, other practitioners, introducing yourself to get them to call you and figure out how you can get there. I think that would make more sense for that community.
Yeah, I think the older community still is very grassroots. It's very, getting in with them, having a conversation with them. I just had solar people come to my house yesterday and sell me, and they were talking about how, the difference between me, it was like, yes, please type up this report, be very efficient, come back to my house with all this ready, compared to an older generation that was like, no, I want to sit down and I want to do this together and let's talk through it. And it's a different kind of mindset, right? You're going to get to them a different way than you're going to get to somebody like me who's more efficient. And I'm like, yeah, just send me an email. I'll read it over and I'll give you a yes or no. Right. So it's a different kind of world. And so, like here, I'm in Yukon, right? And there's a community here called Spanish Cove. It's a huge, it's a senior community. It's not like an assisted living community or anything like that, but it's a large community of people. There's a ton of them at my church who come to my church. I mean, every week there's a new person from Spanish Cove. They are craving community and things like that. So, going to there and offering to do a group, session, right? Maybe it's about aging and transitioning away from your family into this new place, right? And doing that, because when you do those things, you're going to have a group setting, right? But you're going to get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people who are going to reach out to you, right? To maybe start those individual sessions. So spending your time very intentionally, because as we said in the very beginning, we are big fans of lifestyle business, right? So we don't want you to miss things with your kiddo because you're going to do this, but we want you to replace things that maybe aren't working, right? They're not money-making tasks. They're just kind of draining, but not producing results, and replace that with an in-person group session somewhere that makes sense, and give it a shot, right? That's not all going to work, but you're going to figure it out quick, right? You're going to figure out what's working, what's producing leads, and what isn't. Same thing on the college side. We have tons of universities here, right? We've got in Edmond, there's one probably really right near you, right? Doing something there where you can have kind of how to deal with the stress of finals, because we're in final season or something like that. And getting in front of those people, having a handout with a QR code where they can easily book that, introduction with you.
I like it that the QR code is so helpful. It's one of the neatest things we've come up with, in my opinion.
And I feel like because of COVID, it forced QR codes to be like generational proof. I feel like anyone can scan a freaking QR code, whether they are 85 as sitting at a Chili's, or they are, my 8-year-old daughter would scan QR codes and pull up stuff and somehow get it up, without anyone teaching her. She inherently knew, like just by seeing other people do it.
Well, gosh, I remember when they finally updated phones enough, you didn't have to have the QR app on your phone. So that's why I never used them for the longest time. I was like, I don't want another app, seriously.
I feel like Android always did that. I think it was just Apple that was behind the curve, because I always use my camera app to scan QR codes from the get-go.
Well, we could fight about that, but we did want to also kind of come back to a little bit of the website and like what we think we'd like to see. So again, don't know if you can edit what you have or you're going to pivot, but I do think that under your insurance section, we're not going to name anything right now. We're not going to name it out loud, but just I think you need to have an FAQ that gets a little bit more specific. And or if that's something you really want to avoid people reading, it's just that I know that there could be people who are disqualified from working with you from a logistical standpoint who you might not want to waste their time or waste your time. If it's worth it, have an FAQ that has a little more nuance, because Jana's an FAQ queen and she'll read it and she will not waste your time. Like if she already knows you can't help, she won't bother. But if it's like worth a conversation, she'll book immediately. So like the whole millennial point.
That is, to me, one of the reasons I'm likely going to pivot into having an actual website. The marketing side of Simple Practice is helpful enough because it's like, hey, here's a site link for people to follow. But what you see on there is everything I have access to. I don't have a place I could put, to your point, blog posts. I would weekly slap a blog post down if I have a place to put it. I have a personal Substack that I still update periodically because I enjoy writing. It's something I like to do. So yes, I'm likely going to pivot because there are so many questions about insurance that it's like, hey, how many sessions do I have? That's a good question for your insurance carrier. I'm not going to be a helpful resource for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And you can help save everybody time and energy by answering some of the things that our generation would read. Gen Z will even just read everything right from their phone. They do everything on their phone, which millennials, I don't think we can wrap our heads around totally. I do everything on my computer. So, but I do think I'm glad you see the value in that. Jana's the same way. Also, okay, me and Jana have this thing, like we're in our 30s and like, I don't know, when you go somewhere, you just like, you freak out. You're like, where's the door? Where's the building? Where's the parking lot? Is it free? How do I get there? So like having those like intro videos, you have something similar. We love your videos, but like walking into the building, is it like other offices? I don't want to be surprised to see Joe Schmo if I'm waiting for you and I'm like, hi, who are you, Adam? Oh God, I just introduced myself to a stranger. Like this spiral is real. Mm-hmm. You know this. I don't have to tell you this. Maybe I have a skosh of anxiety. Maybe Jana does too. But we tell everyone this. If you have a brick and mortar, do everything. Show a picture of the door. Show how it opens. Show the office.
Yeah, because the building I'm in, I'm going to make a reel about how to enter my office as soon as we're done with this, because I've been thinking it and it's time to stop thinking and start doing. There's nothing to it but to do it. Mm-hmm. There are 5 doors to the building itself. Only one of them goes to my actual office. And if you know which one it is, it's the only one that has rails up to the door. And here's the thing, geriatric clients, I say, please interface in the west-facing door. Every single one of them comes in the right door. If I say that to a millennial or Gen Z, they're like, no thanks.
I never know.
Oh my God. Here, I'll pull up my maps and I'll be like, okay, north is this way. I'm going to go. But I'm that person who I had to go to the hospital yesterday, like the big one for an appointment. And that's like my personal hell, right? Because there's 17 buildings and that building has 17 doors. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been there 6 times and I still get anxiety every time. So everything you can do to because especially because you work with people who are prone to anxiety, who have, OCD and things like that, because you are, they're already going to have anxiety because you're coming to you, at least for the first time, they're anxious, they're feeling probably a little scared and a little off kilter already. And then the things just pile on. Like for me, it's like just an overwhelming weight when I can't find the door or I'm nervous and things like that. And it just makes it where I can't even get my head into the moment, right? I have to come down from that before I can even get myself ready to listen to what someone's going to say.
Yeah. I will fix that today. Y'all check me on it an hour from now. And if it's not up there, blast me.
We'll tag you publicly.
I think we also just wanted to highlight maybe being on Nextdoor. If you're not already on that app, it's another one of those apps where people ask for recommendations for everything. You can answer, or some people, like the person we spoke to on our podcast yesterday, he just gets referrals from being having a listing there basically. So we just want to put that in your head, is think about Nextdoor. sounds like you're in Facebook groups, but make sure you are, speaking to those millennials, maybe exennials, some boomers. Use groups appropriately. And for your Facebook cover, Jonna can give you a little bit more from the brand angle, but I want to just say, like, faces do better. Faces perform better and they have better reach. So when you update it, put a face, like maybe yours, but also you can put a coinciding caption. And that caption you can edit or change. Like if you don't want to change the photo seasonally, but change the caption. So when it goes to your page, people can see it as a post with a picture and a caption. Just as FYI.
I like it. That's cool.
Yeah, you can kind of use it as like a lead magnet. Like it's like you click on it, and then there's a whole little blurb about who you work with and how to book with you. And you can use that as kind of an actionable thing. It does benefit to update your cover photo regularly. Like we recommend like 4 times a year, like seasonally. And like Lori said, using a picture of yourself or even like kind of what your client looks like, stock photo, not like super stocky old stock photo, but more, loose kind of lifestyle. Like maybe it's, a group of people or something like that. And just faces, because people relate to faces better. Overlay your logo, put some language on there, put something that people relate to, big words on there, and just change it up, have fun with it, use it as kind of more intentionally. A lot of people set it and forget it and it stays the same, for 10 years. So it's on Facebook. And so just like little things like that. And we always say we want people, no matter where they land, whether they land on your Facebook, your website, we want them, or you're, coming to your office, we want them to have the same experience, right? They should know that this Facebook belongs to the same person this website belongs to, that this person is like in person. You get people who they'll post certain things and you meet them in person and you're like, am I talking to the right person? Like, is this the right thing? So like making sure it represents all the way through, because we want people to have that seamless journey and touch point with you.
Yeah, I like that. I've got we're gonna leave on a little trip soon, but the day before I don't have any appointments scheduled yet because I'm like, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna be an adult and I'm gonna make a website.
Oh, okay. Well, you no longer have to do any of that alone. Just like FYI, it's one of our favorite things is like taking this brand stuff and creating something new. It's very hard to do your own. I don't know if anyone's listening, if you've ever tried to do your own. It's like you spend half it in and you hate everything and you question it. We're the same way. We also get help when we are doing our own. We have a team. So just so you know, you do not have to suffer through that in silence by yourself. But yes, adulting, we're proud of you. Change your Facebook cover. You should definitely do that. You should definitely be proud. I do think like in general, what you say on your socials like matches how you talk, but I would actually say you're far more funny and endearing, and I would love to see that tone come through more. You've made us laugh. I've had to put myself on mute so that my picture doesn't pop up of just me laughing at you, because you're very, very relatable. And I know it's sometimes it's hard to like teach AI how to capture tone. We can always help you with that. We've mastered that. Oh my God, it's such a nightmare sometimes. If anyone's using Claude or ChatGPT and you want to punch it in the face, leave a comment wherever you're listening to this. Put like a fist emoji, please. It would make me so happy. But we can help you like train AI to get the tone right if you're using AI, which I think we are.
I'm not personally. It's a big like thumbs up or thumbs down in the therapy space, or at least so far as I see. And here's my thing: if you're a therapist or you want to start a private practice and you're wondering, should I use an AI note taker? Just sit down and write a note. I promise you, you're going to spend just as much time editing that stupid thing as you would have writing your own note. Just throw that out there.
That's fair. You have a specific use case. I'm talking about like for branding, brand language, brand development.
And even in that instance, honestly, I just don't like it because even though, yes, I come through more formal in some of the way I post things, because now that you have seen my face and heard my voice and watched my mannerisms, you get where I'm coming from. I think I have a small hang up about like trying to be that goofy through text alone, because I'm a firm believer text doesn't carry tone super well, but maybe I should give up the hang up and see what happens.
I think it's not so much, I think it's like the level, it's not so much like the goofiness or it's bringing in more like vulnerability or realness or more of like an authentic voice, as opposed to like more of a professional, like all the time polished. I think there's times for professional post, you know what I mean, where it's like very direct, very professional. But I also think there's times where you can be more vulnerable, more relatable, and more human, because again, like we talked about, you know, the landscape has changed and people don't necessarily see, you know, counselors as these like overarching, super stiff, like, you know, figures anymore. They are real people who are their neighbors. And so I think people also want to see that.
Yeah, I am incapable of conducting a therapy session with a straight face, and nobody should, in my opinion. I think that's part of what makes it effective is when someone says, "Oh, there's this thing that happened to me," and they see my face drop completely. They're like, "Oh, that's not normal, is it?" Like, it's not, sweetheart. Let's talk about it. And funny you say something about neighbors or neighborhood. Like in my neighborhood Facebook page, every time I make a post about Greenside Prairies, I say, "Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood therapist here."
Exactly. Like leaning into that, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm just like that I'm that therapist next door. You know what I mean? It's like the guy next door kind of thing. And not so much like I'm the scary professional that only sees people who really need help. And, you know, it's again, it's a landscape change. And we've been trained, you know what I mean, to have that professional mindset to do this, but that's not really what's working. And that's not going to help you stand out from everyone else who is in your field as well.
Yeah, a lot to chew on, and a very big excitement about rereading this transcript over here, y'all.
Good.
I'm glad. And Jonna, you had a pin. Did you want to come back to that for the how at all? Anything specific about groups or the office setup that we wanted to talk about with him?
No, I think I circled back on a lot of the groups, but, you know, we do just want to kind of get an idea of like, you know, when they come to your office, not obviously what you're talking about, anything, like what their experience is like. So we know you have a little bit of challenge with the entryway and the door, you know, getting there. But, you know, once they get in, what's their experience like? You know, are they snacks? Are there drinks? Are you providing something that kind of gets them to kind of just relax off the bat? You know, what's it like?
Yeah, I have 2 comfy chairs with comfy pillows in them. I'm looking over at it to make sure I list everything. I have options for lighting. Obviously, for the podcast right now, I have my big lights on, but I have a window and I have a lamp if we would prefer the small lights. I have a couple.
I love that.
I have some artwork. I have a sign that says everything is figure outable with a toad sitting on a toadstool. There's a monstera that's doing pretty okay, and there's a little bin that says circle of control and has some examples of what we can and cannot control printed on it. And inside the bin are some fidgets and a deck of cards and a deck of little skill building cards. So I'm in a singular office that's in a shared office building. You know, my door is tinted, so it's all private still. I keep a sound machine on, but I don't have a common space that I can set out snacks or water necessarily. I have considered, I have Kleenex, everyone. I have tissues. We're good. And I have a trash can for them. But that's one, you have one session where someone uses a tissue and you're like, oh gosh, they've been holding it the entire time because I have nowhere to throw that away. That's a quick fix at least, but I was like, oops.
I was going to say, I love hearing this. I would love to see more photos of this. Probably John is going to say the same thing, but like, I want to know, like when I think of like the how you deliver the service, sometimes it's a barrier for people because they just don't know you. So if it's like, oh, I can like choose my experience, I can tell you I want the side lights, I have control over these things. That helps me overcome a barrier of concern, whether it's from an anxiety or trauma perspective or whatever. I would love to see more of that. Just hearing that makes me feel like calmer, just in hearing you say all these things, and like I can pick through fidgets, and I don't know. I'm like, as soon as you said it, I'm like, ooh, I want to fidget with something. Like it gets me excited. So I love that.
Yeah. Like I said, there's today's homework. You'll see a reel about walking into my office and what my office looks like.
I think that's great. And I implore you too, like when you book with people, to like actually send that to them. Don't like let them find that on their own, but literally include that in a link and be like, hey, I'm really looking forward to seeing you later today. Here's a little video of how to get into my space and what to expect when you get here. And like immediately they know you, right? They feel like they probably know you a little bit better than they did before.
Yeah. And I would probably, check me on this. I would probably upload that more like as an unlisted YouTube video than as an Instagram reel, both, right? I want it on Instagram, but one I send would probably be a YouTube video because I think that just sort of plays better with everybody's phone.
Yeah. And in Google Business, it does let you put videos as well in your listing page if you wanted that, or just photos, just more photos of the building, the parking, even you pointing to the door. I've done that before. So then you've got a face in a building, which can perform better. So
Yeah,
I like it. But there's good use cases for everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with all of them. Let's just, because I want to put more YouTube videos out that are like guided meditations as well. Because I'll do mindfulness and meditation in session, and my clients are like, "Oh, where can I find this?" And I try to find an example video, and they're like, "It's not your voice. I don't want to use this." I'm like, all right, fair enough.
I'm very picky. I have issues sleeping, and so I like to listen to different things when I sleep. Sometimes I'll do like sleep hypnosis kind of style stuff, and I'll do like somatic, and then I'm supposed to listen to brown noise, but it's so boring. But but anyway, but I am very picky about voices. Like if I don't like the voice or I don't like the way they pronounce something, like it'll totally pull me right out of the element. And so if someone's like already familiar and associates calming with your voice, I can see that being such a huge perk for them to be able to have that kind of resource when they're not with you.
And I just want you to consider too, like in how you deliver that, it could be that you have a couple of free ones on YouTube as part of like your marketing strategy where it's like of service, but it brings people to you. And it just makes me wonder if you could have something that was also just for your clients, that they're paying for the service, whether it's extra or included or whatever, but it makes you different. You know, this is something that you're doing. This is the Adam's unique selling points.
Yeah, I almost let the same way that John Mayer doesn't like to talk about what search terms he uses for watches and amps so that it doesn't get flooded, which I respect a lot. I have ideas for that I'm going to keep to myself until I have finalized them.
Good. No, we love to hear that though. I think it's, kind of those ideas turning and things. There's always proprietary things that we can't share on here, but it's nice to talk about the sparks, of the thoughts. So I feel like we've covered your why, your who, your what, your how. And so we really just kind of want to thank you for being here, being open with us. And we want to ask, what is your biggest takeaway from the conversation with us today?
That it's okay that this is hard. that it's important to talk about this stuff and to get input from people who I have never had a conversation more than 10 minutes with before. Because you have a website and a profile that shows me you are trustable, you are trustworthy, you know what you're doing. So it's easy for me to say, yes, I do want to learn from these people. That sounds like a great idea to me. Quite frankly, my biggest takeaway is building my own site is really going to be worth my time, because I had not considered, I tried the whole like look for yourself like you're your ideal client, but I'm all this stuff is baked in my head. All of the clinical terminology is baked in my head. When I look at insurance, I'm like, yeah, I know how that works. Well, I know how it works now. Hey, other thing, people wanting to go into private practice, learn how to do your own insurance paperwork. I promise it's not that terrible. If it feels that terrible to you, use a biller. Absolutely. I very contently do my own paperwork. But anyways, my biggest takeaway is that I have some action steps and I am really grateful for them.
We're so glad to hear that. It's really been so much fun. A lot of the people who come on here are either total strangers or partial strangers beforehand. And I feel like now after this hour, I feel like good buddies with you. And I really feel like I got so much out of just being in your presence too, Adam. So thank you for what you shared. And I also want to say to our listeners, if you're listening and you recognize yourself in Adam's story, you love what you do, you're good at it, but the business side kind of feels foreign. It's like kind of a foreign language. It's something that's new. We can help you close that gap. You do not have to suffer alone on Solopreneur Island. It's something that we say. So if you are ready for your own reality check and you want to be a guest on the show, you can head over to becomethrive.com. And we do have that link below for you in the show notes. We promise to be honest with you, even when it's uncomfortable, because that's how growth happens. So we really invite you to stop pretending that everything is perfect and let's get to work. Thank you again, and we will see you in the next episode.
Success is a lie if you're failing inside. You can't grow a business you hate.